G'day, Richard MUSGRAVE-EVANS here again, and welcome back. Now last week I went out into the bush in traditional clothes that you would have worn 100, 150 years ago, and just camped in the traditional way, I guess you could say, with the simple fire, cups of tea, making bread on the fire, all that sort of stuff. Now I'm back in the studio. What I'm going to do is use that experience, and by the way I'll leave that video in the link below so you can check it out. Use that experience to paint a self-portrait or a figure study or whatever. Okay, so what I'm going to do with this one is going to be more highly finished, more in that naturalistic style, I guess you could say, which was back in the 1880s. That came just after Romanticism and similar time to Impressionism, but it was the first Plein Air artists getting out there, and they were painting life as it was, quite highly finished, and just trying to paint the natural world around them. Alright, g'day there, Richard MUSGRAVE-EVANS here again, and welcome back. Now today, I'm back in the studio, got a big canvas, and I'm going to paint a nice oil painting, something different again from the studio. But today, I'm going to be working a little different, more in the style I guess you'd call naturalism. And now what is naturalism? Naturalism originally came just after Romanticism and just bore Impressionism. So you're looking around the 19th century, and it's depicting the realistic world as it is, I guess, is probably the best way to describe it. So, about a week ago I did a video, and I went out into the bush in costume type of thing, the old-fashioned style back in the 19th century type of thing. Went out, lit the fire, did the whole camping as if you would have done way back then. Took a series of footage, took a series of films and whatever, and uploaded a video, and I'll show a link in the description so you can check that out. But anyway, I got a lot of footage from that, and so what I'm going to use is that footage and that experience of being out there in the natural world and convey that into a major work. So it should be a bit of fun. It's going to take a lot longer to paint this. It's more over time. It's a slower technique, more high realism, highly finished naturalism. Alright, so it should be a bit of fun. And like I said, I'll be using a lot more brushes and different techniques than you've seen me use before. Alright, should be a good one. Let's get into it. Okay, now just going to put a bit of a odourless solvent in so I don't get too gassed out with the fumes. Start off with that and then work up to a bit more oil in the medium later on. Alright, so just got to work out my composition. Obviously that's very important. So I might go for a bit of red oxide. What is that one today? I'm using, let's have a look, transparent red oxide. Now it's a great colour. It's very similar to burnt sienna, but it's more transparent and a stronger chroma, I guess you'd say. So going to be using that, and I'll mix it with a bit of ultramarine blue. So it's nice and thin down there. Now I'm going to work out where I want my major things to be. So I'll just put a few lines in like so. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, right, yeah. Just feeling the landscape, feeling the subject. I want it. You know, I've got to have some major stuff there. Yeah. This is how I like to work, very broadly to start with as usual, but obviously things will build up with a bit more finish as we go. Right. Right. What have we got here? Just getting the feel for it all, how I want it. As you can see, I work in the order of visual importance still, and what I'm doing is creating lines and forms, well, very roughly so, but what it's all about is just getting a vibe for it, positioning things where I want them in the composition before I commit to it, and once I've decided I like that spot, then I'll pull it in and refine it. So it's just the way I like to work. It's quite a broad style, but there's no point putting a lot of detail in right at the start, because if you put a lot of detail in and it's say 5 centimetres out of place, or even less, 2 centimetres out of place, and then as you're getting further into the picture you realise it's in the wrong spot, well, it's too detailed and it's a lot of work to change it, and then you're just doing a lot of excess work that you don't need to do. So what I do is loosely block in, just get the feel, loosely move it around. When I feel like I'm starting to get the shapes and forms that I want, start chunking it in, more refined, until you're at the end and you really refine it. Okay. Right, basically, got the feel, yeah, I like that. Like that, like that. Okay, so now, just keep mixing a bit of blue and the brown together. I'll thin it right down. I'm just making a bit of a tonal thing here at the moment, really, I guess. More medium to thin it off. Just toning the canvas down a bit. Getting a basic feel with the red oxide and the blue. As I said, it's just becoming, where's a bit of that medium? It's becoming a bit of a tonal version, I guess you could say. More medium. Keep placing that in nice and thin, getting rid of that crazy whiteness. Even though the crazy whiteness is very distracting because it's not the colour you want to end up using at the end, obviously, it still can be very good because you can put transparent colours on it and the white will shine through. Just give that extra zing to the colour. The translucency a bit like a watercolour. Okay. Bit of fun. There we go. Trim that off up there. Get this tonal story happening. Where do I want that to be? Yeah, we'll move that way. Yeah, she's nice and loose at the moment, that's for sure. Okay, so as you can see, it's a very generalised idea at the moment. So a bit of foliage in here, just getting the feel of what's going on. Okay, so already in my head I can see a composition. I'll just let you know what's going on here. We've got a bit of a major tree here, a major gum tree, and obviously several saplings everywhere. The figure itself is in here, and I've just been generally feeling the area. Try not to put it too centralised. I'll put a bit of a mark, a crisscross mark, where I've marked the centre, because I do not want to put it right in the centre. So I know where centre is, so I've taken it off from centre. And just generalising the feel, and then I'll start reeling it in. Now, what I might do now is I'll add a bit of colour. I've got a bit of a tonal picture and a bit of shape and draftsmanship. I'll slowly introduce a bit of colour, but still with thin paint. Alright, so got a bit of viridian green and yellow ochre, and a bit of that red oxide, yellow ochre. It's giving me a nice olive type of colour. Now just start feeling it in a bit. At the moment I'm going to keep it very thin, like I said, and keep the marks fairly small for a big brush. Just keep the marks small and impressionistic and painterly. Viridian green, yellow ochre, red oxide. I'll also mix up another brew of ultramarine blue and magenta, and a little bit of white. That's the first bit of white I've used so far. I've been mainly just using, well, I've only been using the white of the board with the canvas currently. Now I'm going for a dusty mauve, so I'm using more of the magentas and the blues with a little bit of the other stuff still on the brush. That's giving me kind of I'll lighten the tone a bit. Just those light dusty colours of the distance. A bit more white in the mix. Very thinly painted. Just getting a coverage. Toning the areas down into a much closer tone to what they'll be at the end picture, and even a closer colour than they'll be. Big canvas, there's always plenty to do, always plenty of fun to be had, plenty of fun to be had. Alright, as you can see, this technique is more labour intensive than if you were using a big palette knife and just blocking it in all at once. But the idea here is, because I'm going to go for a lot more detail, or high finish, I'm just slowly building it up as I go. I've got plenty of time inside the studio instead of being out on location. When I'm out on location and all the light is moving and everything's changing, there's no time for messing around. This would be way too slow what I'm doing now, so I'll have to get the paint in straight away. I like to put the whole lot in at once, like start off with thick paint right from the word go, so I can have the finished painting just appear in front of my eyes without having to build it up. And in the studio you've got time to slow down a bit. Okay, now just go for a bit more of this medium. Streaking that up like you wouldn't believe, but at least it's not chewing my paint so quickly. There you go. A bit more yellow ochre with that. A little bit of green. Just going to paint some of the grasses and whatever else. Like I said, all very generalised at the moment, all very generalised. All shall be revealed later on with more finish and more definition. Currently we're just going for the big impression in a thin version. I like to work in all different styles. I mean, I always like to mix it up a bit, and this will be a good opportunity to do so. There's a few more burnt siennas in there, so I'll just throw them in for an underpainting. Keys that area down a bit too, makes it not so important to the viewer's eyes. There we go. Okay, so working some of those dusty grey mauves into the foreground here, that can be the earthy tones. Put that in there like so. At the same time, we can work a few of those greens in there too. Just going for, like I always do, the big impression to start with, but in a thinner version than what I normally would work. Gives you a lot of room for error when you work with this technique. You can get things wrong and there's no worries, the paint's so thin you can easily work it out. But if you're painting super thick and you put the wrong colours and tones on, it can be a lot more work trying to get it all how you want it again, because you've got so much paint on there, everything could turn into mud if you didn't watch out. But this thinner technique, it's almost like you make a statement and then you work out what's wrong with it. And if it's not that, if it's pretty good, well, you don't have to do much to change it. If it's not quite right, well, you just slowly bring it closer to what it is, but because the paint's thinner, it's a lot easier to build it up without getting yourself in a muddy mess. Okay. I can tell you what, it's a lot more relaxing, believe it or not, than painting plein air. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love painting plein air, and it's a very accurate way to paint. But if you're not on top of your game when you're doing it, if you're feeling a little lazy on the day or whatever, haven't quite got the full concentration, well, it's not necessarily going to be that easy, because everything's changing so quick, and by the time you've observed it and put it on, everything else around you could have changed. So you've got to get it all in so quickly that you really can't relax, and which does make it a little harder, but at the same time, being on site, it's so much easier to tell what the colours are. It's a bit like having all the answers to the maths exam. It's a bit like having all the answers to the maths exam before you start painting when you're out bush. You've already got the answers. They're all there in front of you. All you got to do is copy the answers. Whereas here, some of the colours and whatever you're working with, you are kind of inventing as you go, because you're feeling you haven't exactly got the subject in front of you, so you're working with a bit of an educated guess, I guess you could say. And that guess won't be as accurate as often as pure observation. Anyway, we just keep going, building the paint up. The layers on, I can see it starting to come, I can see something coming. That's good, that's good. And we're just about out of medium again, so I'll top that up. Right, so I'll go for a bit of yellow ochre, burnt siennas, Floridian greens, just feeling it all in there. Random painterly marks. Burnt sienna than that. Oh, no, sorry, that's not burnt sienna, that's the red oxide, the transparent red oxide. Good stuff. Now I'm using nice little marks to give the illusion of more detail. I find that if you give smaller marks rather than big marks, it actually feels like there's a lot more going on in the work. So like so. Gives the illusion that there's just more detail in general, so why not, eh? Why not? Just still going for the big impression, but at the same time working out more and more and slowly refining, becoming more accurate with the colours and tones, and at the same time building up a bit of paint to be able to work with. So, but not building it up too thick at this stage. There we go, put all that on there. Pull it out of focus. Bit more foliage up here. A mixture of all sorts of colours, building up some good colour and texture. Well, not too much texture, but colour variance and tonal variance at the moment. Just getting that paint on, building up. Slowly refining, a little bit of blue into that green. Some of those distant foliages have got more of that blue look in them. Knock it back a little bit with magenta maybe. Yeah, knock it back with a bit more magenta. That's a strong colour. We've got to get rid of that viridian. It's a little bit too strong. Mix some of those tones into it. Building up those colours. Building up those foliage colours. Alright, so you can see we're getting a building up of paint, just generally thickening the paint up as we go. A bit more magentas and greens. Some of that distant stuff in and out of focus. All mystery at the moment, all mystery. What have we got there? Some really light tones at the top, so I'll put some of them in. Dusty mows, etc., etc. Blues and whites and all the rest. Oop, a bit more magenta in the mix. There's a tree coming up here, I'll just restate that. This tree tree here. Mill that one a little bit, just start introducing some of the trunks a little bit more exact. Got the knife on edge here just to create those trunks. Lighten that tone a little bit like so. It's all starting to slowly come together. Lighten her up a little bit. Building up the trunks. So we're slowly getting the feeling, just slowly building up the composition as we go, gradually adding more and more paint. Okay, now these colours I'll just slowly add, just slowly building up the trees, trying to work out which trees I want where. Let's have a look, that goes, that can go there. So with the knife on the edge, I'm just building up a nice trunk. So, and I think I'll have one here somewhere, so I'll just build this up. Got the knife on the edge. So you just keep working around. I might have one here too, so we'll just put that there. Just building them up. Ongoing thing, it's just slowly adding more and more stuff as you go. There's some beautiful saplings in this painting, nice thin saplings. We put them in. Your eyes will always go to edges, so if you're putting, as soon as you start putting a few of these verticals in amongst that just chaotic, massive colour, well, straight away you're going to start to see refinement because you've got straight lines, well, not straight lines, but vertical lines that gives the illusion of a higher finish than it actually is. And when you're painting, everything is about illusion. I mean, to start with, we're using paint. It's not really life. It's an illusion. And so the best technique to get that illusion, obviously the better. Get a bit more white on the mix. What do we got? White and magenta, hang on. Just keep building stuff up. There's that, there's that, there's that. There he goes. Knife on the edge, building up those trees and whatever. Okay, so with some white and a slightly bigger knife, and the browns and the blues making a really high-keyed colour, this will be my sky. Even though the sky is close to white, I don't want it to be pure white because I want to save the pure white for my accents. So I want the sky to be knocked back a bit. Warm and cool versions of it. That in. Mix it all up, a bit more blue. Sticking her in. Pulling things a bit out of focus here and there. So, all coming together. Softening edges here and there, breaking it up. Getting that sky in. A lovely overcast day, just beautiful. Just feeling that, it's looking good, yep, coming together. Alright, there you go, look at that. Okay, now we've got a lot in. I'm just going to work with the figure a little bit now. Just establish that where I want. So we'll just go for a generalised thing. What do we got? I'll go for a bit of burnt sienna to start with. A little bit of blue, key it down a bit. Sorry, not burnt sienna, red oxide is the colour we're using today. Just want to get a general feel. Okay, so yeah, a bit more white in that mix. And the greys. Just feeling that oilskin coat. Change tack, go for a higher key colour. Yellow ochres, burnt siennas. Building the edge of the hat up a bit. Just feeling it at the moment. We're not getting anything accurate at the moment. We're just going for a general feel. Right. Just bring the grasses up to the subject now, blend them in, make them melt together. Some darker tones. Oop, what's that? We've got a big chunk of paint on the end, we don't want that. Okay, so just starting to suggest a bit of a figure in there now, you know, not getting too carried away, just like the rest of the painting, slowly building up. Where are we? Slowly building up with everything. Nice soft sky. Building the trunks up. Slowly putting more and more details of this beautiful gum tree here. Bit of cooler blues where the lights just catching the side of the tree here. Just building that tree up, building this tree up, building all the trees up as a matter of fact, getting them how I want them. Okay, so you can see it's slowly all coming in gradually at the same time. I'm not really finishing anything at once, I'm just working this, working that, pulling it in, composing, shaping as I go, and then I'll really reel it in so I really feel like I've got something. building up a little bit of tonal contrast in the foreground here. Anyway, so it's all fairly, it's not too thickly painted, it's fairly thinly painted like I said, and I'm slowly building it up, so we're slowly getting there. Alright, so just keep on working around and slowly get things together how you want them. Slowly work your way around the canvas, finishing as you go. Softening, detailing, smearing, abstracting. Just trying to get a general out of focus feel for now, and you can make your major statement obviously on top of that, but that almost like a foggy, looking through a foggy hourglass. Just getting big tones all blended together, then you can reel the detail. Alright, okay. Okay, now I'm starting to get a good amount of stuff in there, and that was what I want to do now is go to a bit of a medium that's got a bit more oil in it. So it's not just using terps. This is actually a lean medium, and which means it's got oil, but it's not a real thick version. So I'll put a bit of that in. And that'll be my medium for now. Now I've been using a bit of palette knife there as you saw, so what I'll do now is I just want to go to brush. I want to soften some of the edges and whatever and make a few things in and out of focus. So what do we got here? Here's a bit of that medium. I want to make this area out of focus here, particularly where I'm about to put the figure, because I want the figure to jump out in focus, so it's all about contrast. In focus, out of focus. Just softening a few edges here and there as I go. Built up a fair bit of paint now, got a lot of stuff in the right spots, and now I'm putting a little bit more refinement in the foregrounds and stuff, like building up a few more detailed leaves here and there to give the illusion again, the illusion of detail. Bits of this and bits of that. Bits of grasses, blades of grasses. Blades of grass, maybe. Would be a better way to say it. Building up sticks and refinement and just fine things. All sorts of variety of marks. With the illusion of foreground grasses or whatever. In and out of focus. Drawing those leaves by taking a bit of paint off, defining those leaves, etc. Okay, so what have we got? It's starting to come along, starting to reel it in. Plenty of detail building up in the gum trees themselves, and also got the figure reeling that in, starting to put a few blades of grass. What I might do now is add a little bit more foliage in the trees. It's looking almost like there's been a bushfire, it just needs a little bit more foliage. And keep building up those details of grass, refine that figure to really bring it out, play some up, play some down, just work around the canvas like I've been doing. Alright, let's get into it. Okay, so I've got the first couple of layers. I first initially used odorless terps to block in. Then I went to another medium that had a bit more oil in it, and now I'm going to a slightly thicker medium again, which is a slower dry medium, fat medium. Alright, so I'll drop a bit of that in, and that will... Here we go. There we go. That will mean I'm painting fat on lean. So fat on lean means the paint underneath is leaner and will dry quicker. The paint on top is fatter, will dry slower. Fatter means it's got more oils in it, which means as it dries it won't crack. You need to have the thinner, quicker drying layers underneath. Okay. Okay, so now there's some of these grassy tones here. Knife on edge, get really good detail. Really clean blade of grass here and there. building that up. As you can see, it's coming up. Worked a bit more on the bark, put some real fine grassy bits here and there, a bit more foliage up here, a little bit more foliage up there, just bring it up all around in general. So there we go. Alright, well there you go, pretty happy with it now. I've got the whole lot in now, I reckon. I could keep on going forever, but I think I'll leave it at that. I pretty much feel like I've captured a lot of the stuff that I wanted to capture. If I go beyond that, I could keep doing it and making small improvements maybe, but the big impression's there and it is quite finished. There's a lot of detail in the figure, there's a lot of detail in jumping out of the gum trees. Generally all around there's a lot of finished work across the painting. So what I might do is get the camera off and we'll have a closer look. Alright, now if you like this video, this style of video in the studio, let me know. Send me a message down below, and also if you haven't already subscribed, don't forget to do that and give the thumbs up and spread the good word in general.